Okay, good evening. I'll at this time call to order the Stephenville City Council for this regular business meeting for Tuesday, November 6th, 2012 at 5:30 p.m. And welcome everyone this evening on this election night. And we've got a full agenda. And so without further ado, I'll go ahead and proceed to citizens' general discussion and see if anyone in the audience would like to approach and speak to the council at this time. Okay, hearing none, I'll move to item number 3, the delinquent tax collection report. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Ms. Chu.
Thank you, Mayor. We have Jeff Brown with Limbarger, Gogan, Blair, and Sampson, who works with us on our tax collections, and we also have Ms. Jennifer Carey, our tax assessor.
Thank you, Betty, Mayor, Council. This is my annual appearance here. I just found out why Mr. Kaiser's not here. I wish the Stephenville girls all the luck in the world. I usually come here, I think I've been representing the city now for approximately 25 years. I was younger then, I don't know about her, but I was younger then. We continue to do kind of the same things we always do. Mr. Thomas and I were just talking about this a while ago. We kind of doing the same old things, but it's having some pretty good results, and so that's not insanity. That's a good thing. We continue to, y'all have in your packet a letter that I sent to Mark Kaiser's attention regarding our collection efforts. One of the things I've been standing up here telling you for years is that under the mailing section of this report, that our computer people were really smart, but they weren't smart enough to figure out how many letters I mailed here for the city of Stephenville. This year they can do it, finally, for the first time. So we sent 467 letters on your behalf last year, and that's the exact number we sent to the delinquent taxpayers for the city of Stephenville. I'm really happy to say that I asked for that starting about 20 years ago, and you can tell how responsive they are to me. In any event, we continue to file lawsuits when necessary. We start our mailing program, and we go through that, and we starts off basically with a hello, how are you doing? You owe the city of Stephenville letters, delinquent taxes this year. The letters get a little stronger as we go through the year. Those who don't respond, we generally try to make a contact with them of some type before we file litigation. But we do that. As you can see, this past year we filed 17 lawsuits. Normally, years ago, we filed 17 lawsuits, it'd be for $6,000 or $8,000. As you can tell, property values have gone up. Tax bills have gone up a little bit, so the value of those lawsuits have gone up accordingly. We did sue on 23 different properties in the city. We also dismissed cases that are fully paid. When somebody comes in and they either work out a payment agreement with the tax office, or they get everything paid up and they get the court costs paid up and the abstractor's fees, those kind of things, we dismiss those lawsuits. We dismissed 13 of those last year. By the way, it's not necessarily the same. Not 13 of those 17, it could be from years past, because sometimes delinquent taxpayers who have a hard time, Ms. Carey's office will work with them and give them an opportunity to pay it out over time so that we don't have to sue them or take the property or whatever. We also took judgments in 2 cases. We released 5 judgments, and this is a time I always take a chance to speak well of the elected county officials. I know that we have a new district judge in town. I'm going to miss Don Jones. I think Jason Cashin will do a great job. He has so far when I've been before him. But if you see the county officials, especially the court officials and the sheriff's office, let them know how much we appreciate what they do for me on your behalf. I always get court time when I need it from the district court. The sheriff is always responsive to serve the papers, and when we go out and do tax warrants and those kind of things, they always make time to help us get our job done on your behalf. And so it's important that we have a good relationship with them, and they're very responsive here. Under the tax sales portion, we scheduled 6 tax sales involving $10,000. Most of that stuff was paid before we actually had to sell it. And the only thing that makes any difference to the council is the next paragraph. It talks about the total collections on your behalf. For the last fiscal year, we collected a little over $94,000 total. That's down from the year before, but there's a reason for that. It's a very good trend on behalf of the city of Stephenville. For the last 3 years running, I believe now, 99% of your taxes have been paid during that fiscal year for which they were assessed. That's a great thing. That means you have 1% of your property taxes going delinquent for me to work on. That is a great thing for the city. It's a good tribute to the citizens of your community. The county is probably, about 96 to 97%, I think. So the city of Stephenville is paying a larger portion of their share than the rest of the county, and that's a good thing. It's not so good for me, but it's great for the city. And I'm really proud that is going on. It is in your best interest, and I can still do a good job off that 1%. So, are there any questions about what I've talked about, or anything we need to discuss?
Got any questions? Okay.
Ms. Carey, would you like to say anything?
She's ready to get back to that voting.
She's got she's wearing her other hat most of the day today.
Yeah,
so.
that's right.
But as always, I always like to conclude this by telling you, anytime you need me, the staff here knows me, knows they can call me, and I'll be here just as quickly as possible to answer any questions or concerns. So if you have needs, let me know.
Okay.
Thank you very much. We're going to duck out.
Okay, yeah, you got still work to do and votes to
We got a
collect.
long night to go, so.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And as they're leaving, let me just mention, I guess I should have to start the meeting out. Mark Kaiser is not with us tonight. I called him first thing Monday morning because we found out Friday that the honeybees were going to be in Hamilton tonight, and I was asking, well, how on earth can you be in two places at one time? And can we readjust the schedule or whatever? And thanks to the Open Meetings Act laws of the state of Texas, we were bound by the 5:30 start time, and so we've held true to that. But we've got Betty Chu here, very capable to fill in, and we wish the honeybees all the best tonight as they begin their what we hope is a long playoff run in the playoffs. So let's with that move on to item 4 and the planning and zoning report.
Excuse me, Mayor. Do
Yep.
we need to move to approve and accept Mr. Brown's report?
That's what we customarily do.
Okay. Well, let's do that
I would
then.
make that motion.
Second.
Got a motion by Mr. Nix, seconded by Mr. McDaniel to accept and approve the report as presented. All those any discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, the report is accepted as submitted. Thank you, Mr. Nix. And then now we'll move on to planning and zoning. I was all ready to hear this, so go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. This is a consideration for approval of a final plat of Lot 1, Block 1, Chamberlain Elementary School subdivision. This is a 13.227 acre subdivision. If you remember, I believe it was 2 months ago that we vacated and abandoned rights of way that had never been approved within the Chamberlain Elementary School property. The school has come back with a final plat. They do want to rename this. This property consisted of 3 blocks in the Tarleton Heights edition, Block 21, 22, and a portion of 28. This final plat is to create the Chamberlain Elementary School subdivision. It is a final plat under our short form process. It meets the requirements of our subdivision ordinance and comes forth with a unanimous recommendation for approval from the Planning and Zoning Commission. And I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have those.
Okay, any questions?
Can you describe for us exactly where that 13 acres, because I went around that property 3 or 4 times looking at your map and so forth and never really got where that.
Okay. The boundaries of the property, if you start at the intersection of Fry and Garfield,
Right.
you go to the north to the intersection of Garfield and Ash.
Okay.
You come to the west to the corner of Ash and Cleveland.
Okay.
And then you come just south of Crest Ridge Drive. There are still 3 small lots in that corner there that will be a part of the Tarleton Heights addition. And then you come back down around those lots to Fry Street, just before you get to Rome, and then back to the Garfield-Fry intersection. And the total acreage, including the rights-of-way that were abandoned for Harrison and Mulberry, constitute that 13.7 acres.
Okay, now where is the building they built probably 5 or 10 years ago? It's the elementary school, what was the
Was the old
kindergarten?
kindergarten building?
Yes, ma'am.
If you see where Crest Ridge Drive intersects, or if you
Yes,
went
sir.
directly
Yes, ma'am.
east, it sets in what is part of Lot 3 in Block 27 and part of, I can't remember whatever the other lot is. But it sets in the area here where you're combining those 3 lots, if you can see that on your plat.
Yes, okay. So the land they want to do is in essence,
It is the
most
entire-
of it's on Ash Street here.
Well, it's the entire block. This will all be one large lot when they rebuild the Chamberlain Elementary School. It is the entire property,
Okay, so they're making the whole property then
one lot.
one lot. Okay, that's what it wasn't clear to me. Okay,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the final plat.
So moved, Mayor.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Nix, seconded by Ms. Taylor to approve the final plat of Lot 1, Block 1, Chamberlain Elementary School subdivision. And it's 13.277 acres of land in the John Blair Survey, A32, City of Stephenville. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Okay, that motion is approved, unanimous vote for the final plat. All right?
Okay, your next item is a public hearing to consider a request to rezone from R1 Single Family Residential District to the R2 1 and 2 Family Residential District. This is the west part of Lot 1, Block 68, City Edition, known as 531 North Columbia Avenue. This does come forth as a favorable recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission. You may remember in June of this year, this same request came forth. There was opposition at that time. The applicant Mr. Bomeo, who is the owner of the property, submitted a new application. The commission did consider it at their last meeting in October. And actually, one of the opponents last time to the rezoning spoke in favor of it this time, and we did not have any opposition. Following your public hearing, you do have an ordinance on page 12 which would affect the zoning change if you concur with their recommendation. And I would be happy to answer any questions regarding the staff report. Mr. Mayo is here also for the public hearing.
Any questions for Ms. Chu before we proceed with the public hearing? Okay, at this time, I'll open a public hearing for discussion of the consideration to rezone, and ask any persons wishing to speak in favor of the measure to come forward, and remind you to please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Anyone? All right, Mr. Mayo, just state your name and address for the record, please.
Bo Mayo. I live on at 2699 County Road 223 in Stephenville.
Okay.
Does everybody have this map, I guess?
Yeah.
This is a little lot on Columbia Street. It's a little bit bigger than the rest of the single-family lots on that street. It's the 531 there. There's already a duplex on the on this block at 500 and 502. That's a duplex, and if the council approved it, I'd like to build a new duplex there. And I have a picture of kind of what I had in mind if you guys would like to see it.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Thanks, sir.
I'd be happy to answer any questions about anything.
Ms. Sager?
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, what is your opposition to building a single-family home in that lot?
Well, it doesn't work very good financially. That's an older neighborhood. The way the minimum square footage is, it's 1,500 square foot. Next door to that house, you know, there might be a 900 square foot house, and then, so you build a new 1,500 square foot house there, and you're gonna have one of the bigger houses, a brand new big house in an older neighborhood. It just doesn't work very good,
Is it
so.
a property value issue for you? Is that it?
Yes,
You
I
know,
mean,
1,500 foot square house, or square foot house, would that be more, I guess that'd be higher in value than the properties that are already there?
yes, yeah. I don't think I think you'd have you'd have 100,000 in it, and it'd be you're in an $85,000 neighborhood, so.
And so the first time you applied for this, you indicated you wanted to divide this into 2 different lots, and you no longer wanting to do that?
No, I originally thought I'd divide it in 2 lots, and I wasn't sure on the square footage. I didn't really do my homework on it. I thought it was 1,000 square foot minimum, and I was going to divide it in 2 lots and build 2 little houses. The people, the neighbors there were concerned about the parking. They thought it would be too crowded, and so I called those folks. I went and visited with them and showed them what I wanted to do, and assured them that it would complement the neighborhood. It'd be a nice property, and that it'd have adequate parking. I even told them I'd go ahead and we're required to do 2 parking places per unit. I told them I'd go ahead and put 3 in on each one of these, just to make sure it had plenty of parking. And they said that's fine. So.
Any other questions? Okay. Mr. Evans?
Where would that third parking place be on this drawing?
Well, the front there would be wider, so you could park 2 cars in front on each side, and then 1 in the garage. So it'd actually be four spaces in front of the house, in front of the property, and then two in each garage.
So the parking or the driveway would actually probably go out in front of the doors here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. And that's not the exact. That's just something along those lines is what I'd like to build.
Okay. Mr. Josephine?
So when you put double loaded parking on both sides, basically you lose curb space, is that correct? You'll lose curb
Yes.
space, I mean, so does that affect parking on the street and other citizens? That way, I know that in some other areas we've not allowed that before.
You know, if the curb is, if it's a driveway, then you could not park in front of it, so you would eliminate.
So you're limiting
Curb space.
curb parking. So how wide is the lot then?
It's 100 foot wide, I believe, by 106 foot deep.
100 foot wide, so the parking then would be probably, what, 20, would be, I guess, 16 times 32 feet, or 32 to 40 feet of parking in front. Is that right? 2 cars on each side, 8 to 9 feet on the, times 4.
Yes, sir, I believe so. I think they have to be. Do they have to be 9.5 feet, Betty? Is that right?
Yes, they would. So
Yep.
you'd basically take out 40 foot from
From the curb.
the curb. Most of the time you'll do some type of, well, you've got a radius that'll take a little more out, 5 foot on each side, so that really gets you down 45 off of that.
So I guess you did that so that you could get parking up off the street, which was what the complaints were from before.
Yes, sir. In that street, it is narrow, that street, and then the next street over here, Race Street, is sort of the same way. On Race, they have where you cannot park on one side of the street, and I think that would be something to look at on some of these other narrower streets where you can only park on one side or the other of the street. Because it does get narrow when there's people parked on both sides and you're trying to get down through there.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions? Okay, thank you. Okay, anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Okay, seeing none, I'd at this time call anyone wishing to speak against or in opposition to the measure. Okay, seeing none, at this time I'll close the public hearing and open up for discussion or entertain a motion.
Mayor,
Mr. McDaniel.
I move approval of the rezoning request of 531 North Columbia.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. McDaniel, seconded by Mr. Taylor to approve the rezoning from R1 Single Family Residential to R2 1 and 2 Family Residential District. That'd be for Lot 1, Block 68. Any discussion? Mr. Evans?
We, as Betty said a while ago, we had this exact same request back in June. And what Bo wanted to do was build 2 houses, and what he wants to do now is basically build 2 houses under one roof. I guess that's what a duplex is. I don't really see in my mind where we've alleviated the parking thing. I mean, you can say they have to park in the driveway. The reality is, they're not gonna park in the driveway, they'll park in the street, and there's not much we're gonna do about it. I've been there twice. I've been in the original application, I've been there for this application. The street didn't get any wider, that corner is especially a crowded corner. I still don't think this is a very good application, and I'm gonna vote against it. Bo, I appreciate all you do. We're all for taking your tax money, but I don't like this deal in this law. I'm sorry.
Other discussion? Okay, I'll entertain I guess at this time we'll proceed with the vote then. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, so that's 6 in favor, 1 opposed, and that then approve ordinance 2012-25, rezone from R1 to R2, Lot 1, Block 68. Okay, the final item for planning and zoning, item D.
Yes, Mayor. This is a final plat for the Lake Granbury Developers subdivision. This is a 16.17 acre tract of land located on West Washington Street. You reviewed the preliminary plat in September. This is for a 3-lot commercial subdivision and is in the 2700 block of West Washington Street. The developer is Lake Granbury Developers LLC and Allsup's Convenience Store, and Baird Hampton and Brown serves as the project engineer. The final plat meets the requirements of the subdivision ordinance for a final plat. The changes that were requested by the Commission and Council have been incorporated into this final plat, and it does meet the requirements of the subdivision ordinance and comes forth with a favorable recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission. The representatives from Baird Hampton and Brown are here if you have any questions, or I'd be happy to answer those on the staff report.
Okay, any questions for Ms. Chu? Yep, Mr. Speen.
It goes back to the same question I asked when it came up the first time, is the number of street cuts, number of curbs, driveways, I guess.
Yes.
My understanding is that what the requesting is exceeds the requirement now for setbacks between drives. But I understand the state has, I guess, given them permission to do that.
Yes, TxDOT has permitted a deviation, and there will be 2 entrances.
2 entrances.
2 driveway cuts or permits.
Okay.
issued.
And will one of them be directed back towards the west?
I think Mr. Strebe can address that. It will come forth with the development plans, but he does have the approval from TxDOT with the permit.
Okay, great.
We do have 2 driveways. The one central driveway will be 2 directional. This one will have a median that'll make it right in and right out. And obviously this one's located on the far side of the secretary, the one in the middle. But both of them are public access easements that can be used by, any of the properties.
And that's why they're the size they are, I guess, and how, because of the amount of property back here.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Anybody else?
Second access is at the far west of the property, is that correct?
Yes.
There you go. Thanks. That's all right. I'd have tackled you.
You have to get around.
I can
No,
jump.
he jumped across.
I jump over.
Go ahead and pass it then.
Betty, I've got a quick question.
Yes.
Thank you.
It says that there's fire hydrants existing now in the 2700 block of West Washington.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that is sufficient for the first 500 feet?
There will be additional fire hydrants installed by the developer,
Okay.
Thank you.
actually with the first phase of the subdivision.
Okay, but what they have there now is enough for the first 2 lots? Or are you talking about additional ones?
Actually, there will be additional fire hydrants installed with the development of Lot 1, which is the first lot to be developed.
Very good. I'm glad to hear that.
Any other questions? Yeah, I've got one. Betty, could you just describe briefly TxDOT's role in this and when it began?
The Texas Department of Transportation, because Highway 377 West Washington Street within the city limits is state right-of-way, the city and TxDOT work together, and TxDOT issues the permits for these driveway access points, just as they would if there was a public street to be installed. They are a part of looking at this. One of the things they looked at is their access management plan. And I think if you remember from the preliminary plat, there are 2 cross-access easements that will eventually connect with the Walmart development and Payless Shoes and Taco Bell, because those are cross-access easements, which will allow persons entering and accessing this commercial development to go back to the Walmart development. Ultimately, we've got a small piece in there that we'll have to develop. And hopefully, as the property to the east redevelops and some development occurs there, we will eventually get these cross-access easements back to Rita Street.
Okay.
So you would not have to go back and forth and cross Washington Street each time you entered and exited these commercial developments.
Okay. And just one last question, is the TxDOT office that you're coordinating with, is it the local regional office or is it the district office in Fort Worth?
The district office actually issues the permits, but they work with the local office.
Right, okay. All right, thank you. Any other question or discussion? Okay.
Mayor, I move approval of the final plat of Lake Granbury Developers Edition.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Nix, seconded by Ms. Taylor to approve the final plat for lots 1, 2, and 3, Block 1, Lake Granbury Developer Subdivision. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Approval of final plat, lots 1, 2, and 3, Block 1, Lake Granbury Developer Subdivision. Okay, thank you, Ms. Chu.
Thank you.
All right, now we'll proceed with a series of committee reports, and first tonight is the Finance Committee. Mr. Serene.
Thank you, Mayor. On October 16th, the Finance Committee met, and we have an opportunity, like most people when we borrow money, there's periodically opportunities to refinance those at lower rates, get a better return on our money. As light as I can get, there you go, Cindy. And so thank you. So we have an opportunity for some of our bonds that have come up that we can refinance now. And I think the number, as I talked to Mark today, I think that the number is, current rates would give us somewhere in the neighborhood of $40,000 a year in savings. And over the life of that note, it'll obviously equal somewhere around $750,000 in savings to the city of Stephenville. So we directed the city staff to form the paperwork for that. And so today we have before you some consideration to take action on an ordinance authorizing the city general obligation refunding bonds, appointing a representative from the city, which I'm assuming that'll probably be Mark, and delegating the representative certain matters with respect to the sale of these bonds, establishing parameters for the approval of such delegated matters, approving the use of escrow agreement and the form of paying agent registrar agreement, providing for the pledge of ad valorem tax revenues for the payment of the bonds, and enacting other provisions related to the issuance of the sale of those bonds. That's a mouthful, Cindy. I appreciate you writing that out for me today. And so I have a motion that I'd like to bring before the council today. if we have, after we have some discussion.
Okay. Any questions or discussion on the matter?
I'd like to say I appreciate
All right.
Mark and the staff looking at these opportunities that we have to potentially save some money by doing a refinance. And I appreciate the fact that Walter and all the rest of the staff are staying on top of this and watching and helping us conserve and use our resources as well as possible.
There will be other opportunities as time goes on, possibly to do some more refinancing down the road, so we may be able to do that later, at a later date. But this was brought to the council with unanimous approval from the committee.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? All right.
I have a motion I'd like to bring to the council.
Okay.
I move that we approve an ordinance authorizing the issuance of city's general obligation refunding bonds, appointing a representative of the city and delegating to the representative certain matters with respect to the sale of the bonds, establishing parameters for the approval of such delegated matters, and enacting other provisions related to the issuance and sale of the bonds. Whew. That's a lot.
Do I hear a
I've never had a
second?
motion like that before in my
Okay.
life.
It's been moved and seconded. The motion as stated. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'll move to the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, the motion carries by unanimous vote to approve the ordinance authorizing the issuance of the city's general obligation refunding bonds and appointing a representative of the city and delegating to the representative certain matters with respect to the sale of the bonds, establishing parameters for the approval of such delegated matters, and enacting other provisions relating to the issuance and sale of the bonds.
Thank you, Mayor. We also had one other item. We have been discussing tax increment reinvestment zones and tax increment funds. We had George Williford come to our committee and present that information. There was no action taken at that time. We'll continue to investigate more possibilities of creating opportunities for investment and development in Stephenville, Texas.
Okay.
That's my committee.
Any other comments on the report? Okay, I'd just like to thank the Finance Committee for their work on these issues and the city staff as well. As Mr. Nix stated earlier, Mark Kaiser and Walter are continuously looking for ways for us to be most efficient with the taxpayer dollars as possible. I also am excited about the look into these economic development incentives, because revenue sources and ways to generate revenue is a focus and very important to future budget development. So thank you, Mr. Savine.
Do we need separate action for the approval of the engagement letter with McCall, Parkhurst, and Horton?
Yes, I'm gonna tell you too, because I'm not real sure it's covered in the other, in the other motion, so it can't hurt for us to approve
Okay.
this.
Okay, so which page is that on?
That will be page, what, 56 through 61.
Okay.
Okay, so Randy, you think we just need a motion to approve engagement?
The engagement letter here, starting on page 56 with McCall Parkhurst.
Okay, I make a motion that we appoint those folks.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Savine, seconded by Mr. Nix, that we approve issuance of the engagement letter to McCall, Parkhurst, and Horton. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries, and engagement letter approved as written. Okay, next on the agenda, Mr. Nix and the Public Works Committee report.
Thank you, Mayor. Also on October 16th, during our marathon meeting, we had a Public Works Committee meeting. And as a first part of my committee report, I'd like to ask that Mr. Johnny Davis make his annual report from CH2M Hill/OMI. They are the managers of our wastewater treatment plant. He makes an annual report to us, and Johnny is here and prepared to make that report, and I'll yield the floor to him at this time.
Thank you, Councilman Nix. I believe everybody has a copy of the annual report in their packet. I'm not going to go through this page by page, but would like to touch on 2 or 3 items and then answer any questions that you might have. Just some data from the plant. In the contract year, we treated over 585 million gallons of wastewater and disposed of 236 metric tons of solids. The wastewater treatment plant had no excursions from permit during the contract year, and all the biomonitoring and sludge testing passed. And on section 3, which is safety, for the contract year, we had no accidents or injuries for the year. The wastewater treatment plant operators were awarded 17 National Safety Council awards this year. And since we started at the project October 1 of '96 to present, we haven't had any lost time accidents or injuries. And then last, I'd like to talk about the rebatable accounts that are in our contract, which is chemicals and solids disposal. And this year, we're going to rebate back to the city $3,619.83. And with that, I'll answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions? Mr. McDaniel.
Mayor. Johnny, I just had one question on page 73 of our packet. Is the last page of the new contract. And up at the top, number 5 refers to Appendix F, Project Vehicles and Equipment is hereby deleted in its entirety and replaced with the attached Appendix F, Project Vehicles and Equipment. The word deleted in its entirety always sends up a red flag for me.
Right.
So there's another list of project vehicles and equipment that we don't have in our packet that's being deleted and replaced with this one?
In the new contract, the old equipment that we had was deleted, and then it's put in the new amendment, and we have new equipment to replace it with.
Okay, so by it being deleted, that means it's, who owns this equipment?
The city owns it.
The city owns it, okay. And when you delete this equipment, it's just deleted from your list. The city still owns it. We put it in storage or something for sale, for future sale?
That's correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Nick, did you have something to add?
It's really just an update to the contract that shows the equipment that's out there now. The old contract showed the old equipment. It's merely just a replacement of the outdated section.
Okay. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Johnny.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, other questions? Mr. Nix.
Johnny, I want to thank you for coming and making your report tonight. And I cannot stress how impressed I am that y'all have operated from '96 until present with no loss of time, accidents, or injuries. That is an outstanding safety record.
Thank you.
And I appreciate how diligently y'all monitor that and how cautious you are, and yet you continue to do a good job for us out there with our plant. And I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, other comments? Well, let me pile on with another thank you, and that is for your comment about the 100% regulatory compliance. That is a big deal. It's a big deal, in fact, that our treatment plant discharges into the Bosque River, and we're in Stephenville, Texas, in Erath County, and we have a lot of scrutiny and compliance arena, and so for you to uphold that is really important to the continued future for the community. So thank you very much for that work, and that is a lot easier said than done. So appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mayor, I move that we accept Johnny's report.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Nix, seconded by Mr. Cood to accept the report. Is that
Yes, sir.
okay?
Yes, sir.
Any discussion?
Are we gonna vote on
Yeah, we're
pay
gonna-
increase? Okay.
Yeah, we're going to vote on
I'm
the
jumping
contract
around.
amendment separately,
We're going to
Scott.
do two. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor of accepting the report, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. The report is accepted. Mr. Nix.
Thank you, Johnny.
Thank you.
Also, as a part of our meeting on the 16th, Mayor, we discussed a contract amendment with OMI for the maintenance and operation of our wastewater treatment plant. As a part of our existing contract with them, they have the opportunity to come to us annually and ask for what amounts to a cost of living increase or CPI increase based on what has happened in the past year. They also have at that same time an opportunity to ask for an increase in their sludge hauling cost and removal, and also for their chemical costs. The contract amendment that you find on pages 72, 73, and 74 leaves those costs unchanged, the cost for the sludge hauling and disposal, and then for the chemicals. They did ask for, and the committee is recommending, a 4.12 CPI increase to their original contract. That amounts to $19,956.14. That brings the total operational cost for the year to $678,784.47. And it was the recommendation of the committee, and I will make the motion now that we approve amendment number 6 to our contract with OMI.
Here a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Nix, seconded by Mr. Coot to approve amendment number 6 to the agreement for operations and maintenance and managed services to CH2M Hill OMI. Any discussion? I do have one question. Do we know what CPI index is used?
I believe it's the Metroplex, but I'm not sure. Is that correct?
Part of their contract actually specifies which index is used, and it's a formula calculation
Okay.
to come up with this percentage.
So it's stipulated in the contract? Okay.
Yes, sir,
All right,
correct.
great. Thank you. Any other questions? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries, unanimous vote to approve amendment number 6 to the O&M and Management Services Agreement with CH2M Hill OMI.
Mayor, next on our agenda that evening was a presentation by Johnson Controls. They brought information to us and presented it about an automated meter system that they have installed in several of the cities of comparable sizes and larger. This system would streamline and make more accurate our reading and accounting for water. Also, it would give our customers several options that they do not have now. It is a system that's similar, if I remember correctly, to what Encore is putting on the residences and businesses around our city at this very time, if I remember correctly. After their presentation, we agreed to continue to have staff be in contact with them and continue to gather information on this. At some point in the future, and I'm not sure when, they will bring more information back to the committee, and at that time we will probably have a recommendation to make, but at this point in time there was no action taken on that particular item. The last item on our agenda that evening was strategic planning. We talked about a number of issues in our infrastructure that we will need to address in the future, and the issues that we have with those things, water distribution and our wastewater collection and treatment and other issues. Again, there was no action taken on that matter. It was more an informational meeting than anything else. And Mayor, that concludes my report.
Okay, any other questions or comments? All right, Mr. Nix, I'd like to thank you for the work of your committee in this very important area. It's exciting to hear innovative ideas of staff, Nick Williams bringing forward with Johnson Controls, and the future potential for that sounds very encouraging, and you're right about the infrastructure and our need to continue to concentrate in that area and be able to speak to the requirements that exist to maintain those systems long term. So thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, next, Mr. Evans, the Planning and Development Committee report.
The Planning and Development Committee was scheduled to meet on October 16th. Due to the marathon meetings of the other committees, we ended up meeting on the 23rd. Had a lengthy agenda. The first item on our agenda was a report from the Park and Rec Board, Recreation and Open Space Master Plan. Several of the advisory board members were present and addressed the committee concerning priorities for the development of the park. There were actually 4 projects discussed. Number 1 was an irrigation pond. Number 2, connection of the Bosque River Trail. Number 3 was a pedestrian walkway. And number 4 were parking lots. The committee requested that staff get a cost estimate for the design of the irrigation ponds and the other items mentioned. For budget time, we instructed Drew to have those dollar figures for us by spring. Additionally, the Park and Rec board members expressed their support for the multi-purpose facility. You'll see that will become a theme here in a minute.
Yeah.
And I'll stop if anybody has any questions about that.
Okay, any questions on item A? Okay.
Second item on the agenda was the public library needs assessment. Our library advisory board, some of those were present to discuss recent improvements made to the library building. The board informed the committee that the bookshelves downstairs needed to be replaced and that the back door to the building should be replaced with a fully automatic ADA accessible door. In addition to that, there was some discussion about roof repair. And so the committee asked again of Drew and his staff to get us some numbers together for bookshelves, the fully automatic door, and the roof. And we'd like to have those numbers by spring again in time for budget meetings. I might just stop there and say if anybody has not been to the library lately to see the changes over there, they're really pretty dramatic. And I'll end by saying again that the library board expressed the need for a new facility and would also be receptive to a multi-purpose facility concept. And I'll stop if there are any questions.
Any questions or comments? Okay.
Item C, Senior Citizens Advisory Board. The Senior Citizens Advisory Board briefed the committee about 2 initiatives in the works with the North Central Texas Council of Governments. The first item involves technology provided by the COG to increase and promote participation in rural centers. The COG will provide a 46-inch television and high-definition camera as part of an audio-visual cart that will enable teleconferencing with other senior centers in the North Texas region. The goal is to increase participation and provide additional programming through this platform. The second item, and actually I think these 2 items are really connected to each other. I think they're contingent upon each other. To develop a congregate meal program at the center, seniors could enroll in the program and have meals delivered to the center through the Meals on Wheels program. The congregate meal program and the virtual center would be funded totally through the COG and Meals on Wheels with no expense to the city. In addition to that, they also asked us to help them eradicate a bat problem that they have in the building. And I think the floor was discussed again. However, I think the floor is really in pretty good shape. I'm gonna get you in just a minute. I'll ask you.
It was the leaking we discussed.
Okay. The members of the advisory board also discussed the condition of the current facility and recent improvements made. They echoed the sentiments of the Parks and Library Board to pursue a multi-purpose facility for a long-term solution. We have with us this evening Pat Jones, who's a member of the Senior Citizens Advisory Board, and I believe Pat would like to address the council.
You just about said everything I was going to say.
Come on.
You can get up and say it
Go
again
ahead.
if you want to.
Go ahead, Ms. Jones. We'd love to hear from you.
They told me you were going to talk about the congregate meals. I don't know.
Okay, I can a bit.
Okay.
Whitney Lee with the Meals on Wheels program. These 2 programs are required to be done in conjunction with each other. If you can't have one without the other. Meals on Wheels apparently has had funding in place for congregate meals to be served at the senior center for people that would like to get those meals and yet would like to eat socially with others. This whole program is to revitalize senior centers in rural communities. That program has already started. They served 6 meals it will be on Tuesdays and Thursdays. They did serve 6 meals on Thursday. They were serving 3 today. People do need to make arrangements in advance so they can know how many meals to provide. It will basically be the same meals that go out to Meals on Wheels recipients. And the only requirements for criteria is, as I understand it, is that you be a resident of Erath County and over 60 years of age. So all of you can eat there. Not quite all of you, not quite.
Alan.
About the same information on the program for the teleconferencing. This is kind of a trial issue, and this is, I don't know if they're doing it at other locations, but this first trial here is going to combine the Erath County, or the Stephenville Senior Citizen Center with the Hood County Center in Granbury. And they will be allowed to teleconference programs that they have and send them by television to the other centers, so they might go to a wider audience. Any questions?
Would you mind speaking to us maybe a little about the floor? The floor is something we've heard for a number of years. Is the floor down?
Well, the floor has been replaced in the main activity room, the large room. It was replaced with pretty much the same flooring that had been there before, and it's still not terribly level, but it's much better. And there's no chunks of flooring out of it, so it's very serviceable the way it is. And due to money that was donated by, I believe, the defunct dinner club, had money left when they decided to abandon their dinner club, is that correct? And several $1,000s, as a matter of fact, which they donated to the center for flooring improvements in the rest of the building. So I'm not aware of flooring issues that are a problem. I asked Sandy specifically when we met last time if she had a wish list. And if you go into the main building, which a lot of out-of-town people see because that's where the dances are, it is not the dance room. We don't. It's used for lots of other things. But one wall in particular, the one that doesn't have the mural on it, is just in pitiful condition from water that has run down through the walls of the building. And Sandy says there is no point in attempting to paint over that because the moisture just keeps leaking through and ruining whatever they try to do to that. So there is a leakage problem that needs to be addressed since that building is undoubtedly going to be used for quite some time. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Mr. Smith.
I think the program for feeding for meals for seniors is incredibly important. Alan and I worship at a congregation that helps feed people in the community. There's other churches in town that do the same thing. And what we're finding from our own ministry is that more and more seniors are having difficulty having ends meet. And I think it's a great program, and I think that the citizens of Stephenville need to, think about the people in the community that are elderly, particularly the elderly, that have difficulty in meeting their nutritional needs. I think it's a great program.
Any other comments? I would like to just say a couple of things here real quickly about this program as well, because I think it's important to know how we got here. A couple of months ago, Mark Kaiser, Scott Evans, myself went up to Arlington, met with the North Central Texas Council of Governments, and we talked a little bit about the seniors citizens program here. Dr. Cood had some comments there as well, and we got a phone call shortly after that, and Drew Wells, to his credit, jumped on that with this opportunity with the county for this to become a reality. And I think it's again evidence of how one, we need to make sure the Council of Governments doesn't forget that Stephenville and Erath County exist, but secondly, how the city staff and the county have come together for a program to benefit the seniors in the community. And I think that's really important for us to recognize, and I'm really looking forward to the audiovisual piece of this for the senior citizens Skyping to Granbury which will, I mean, it sounds kind of fun, and it will be, but more importantly, it's going to be a way for them to get information about things that are going on, programs for seniors that they might not hear about otherwise. And communication to that group is very important, so they're aware of issues, and then just the opportunity to get together and share a meal together is a great thing. So I just want to thank the city staff for their effort with that, and Sandy, she does phenomenal work out there, and Pat, thank you for your presentation this evening. Mr. Evans.
Continuing along, the next three items, the update of the building codes, the review of subdivision zoning ordinances, and a checklist for builders and developers to go through when trying to make applications at City Hall. Just a comment kind of about all three of them. Probably in all the time I've been on the council, this matter of people trying to bring a project to City Hall, a building project of some kind, and figuring out how to make their way through City Hall, I've probably personally gotten more comments about these matters than anything I hear from citizens. I get more citizen fussing or complaining, or so that's why these items are in committee. I hope that the builders and developers will be patient with us. I hope that they will be open to us. If you get a chance to talk to a council member about any of these items, be open and be honest and frank, because we're trying to solve some of these problems. Anyway, item D is the update of the building codes. The committee discussed updating the construction codes. Right now we are using the 2006 codes. The technical boards review and make recommendations regarding adoption of the 2009 International Code and the North Central Texas Council of Governments regional amendments. The committee instructed staff to have the technical boards begin the review and have recommendations for adoption in 2013. Additionally, we asked, I think, Jimmy to review the 09 fire code, and if we decide we're going to make changes, we need to change both, or none, one or the other, but probably both. Any questions on that?
Any questions or comments?
Item E is the review of subdivision and zoning ordinances. The committee reviewed amendments to the subdivision and zoning ordinance that have been adopted by the council in the last 10 years. The reason we asked to do this, and we're going to ask the Planning and Zoning Commission to take a look at these, is because what we're hearing from the citizens is that the cost of projects are too high, and we want to make sure that the things that have been passed the last 10 years or so are things that are really important to us, and not just things that we're doing to drive cost of a project. We don't want to put our developers or builders in a competitive disadvantage when competing for projects. There were some specific things that we're going to ask the Planning and Zoning Commission to do. We're going to ask them to take a look at the parkland dedication or fee, the landscape regulations, the 80% exterior masonry walls, drainage, the number of parking spaces, sealed surfaces, curb gutter, and sidewalks. So Betty, that's what the committee is asking Planning and Zoning Commission to take a look at for us. I'll pause for questions, Mayor.
Any questions or comments? Well, let me just make one comment, and Scott, I really appreciate your work in this area and the effort of the committee, and I would just want to echo your comment about the importance of the technical board participation and review of this. I mean, we're basically asking the local building community to help us understand how these building codes apply in Stephenville, Texas, and do so in a manner that benefits our economic development as a community, and not just carte blanche accept it at face value, and to scrutinize it and understand the implications and accept those that are important and necessary, and either remove those that are not, or not accept those that are not. And this is really important. It's a time to participate. so that you can be a part of the solution and not just look back and say, well, why do we have this or why do we have that? Because we are all in this together, and together we will be successful, I think, in making this a good climate for economic development. So thank you for your effort here.
Well, and let me just add to that, and I'm not even through with the committee report, but nobody here is up for re-election the next few days, so let me just tell you that the mayor and the council, we are very cognizant of the fact that, you know, the best way to handle all the needs that the city has financially is to try to drive the economy here. The last thing anybody sitting up here wants to do is raise taxes. And your alternatives are either you drive the economy, you drive, you know, building and business and development, you drive your sales tax, or you're going to have to raise taxes. And all of us up here know that, and certainly nobody here wants to raise taxes. So I'm hopeful that the building community will be open with us. Anyway, item F is the checklist, what we call in the checklist. The committee reviewed the plating, site development plan, commercial and residential building permit checklist used by the city. What we're trying to do is to find a more user-friendly process. It seems like the kind of the complaints that I hear, somebody will say, I went to City Hall, they told me I had to do this, I did this, went back, and then they said, I've got to do something else. We don't know what the problem is exactly, but we're going to take a look at the process of all of these permits that the city requires and see if we can't put those in some sort of a friendlier package them up different, more understanding. I think we need to spend some time with our employees that work in that department and make sure that they're spending enough time with the client, and that the client understands completely what they're going to need to do from A to Z from the time they start maybe their beginning demolition until they have an occupancy permit. So anyway, the last item on the agenda was item G, the strategic planning. I'm sorry I didn't ask for questions there, but if anybody's got
Any questions there? Okay.
strategic planning, the committee discussed, or it says here that we discussed a comprehensive plan with regard to strategic planning. They discussed updates of the thoroughfare plan and annexation plan. With regard to strategic planning, what I really want to do, and I've talked to Betty some about this, is I really would like to put together a training session that is for council members, planning and zoning commission members, staff members, anybody else that might want to be, certainly the builders, developers, if they wanted to come in to better understand zoning codes and ordinances. We also would like to have some training. Doug talked some about his committee and some of the financing options, but certainly I think the council there are other options besides just what George talked about in your committee, but other financing options that just gives us some more tools in our toolbox to attract development. So that's kind of what's going on with the Planning and Development Committee. We've got a lot of work to do. We'd appreciate it if you wouldn't assign, wouldn't think of anything else for us to do.
Any comments or questions for Mr. Evans?
Mayor reminding us why they paying the big bucks.
Yeah, that's why we pay you the big bucks, Mr. Evans. I'm reminded by Mr. Nix.
I think Mr. Nix was talking about you.
Yeah. Let me just once again, Scott, thank you for your work with the committee. These are really, really important issues for us to look at, and I couldn't agree more with your statement about us looking for ways to generate revenue for the community and the importance of that and economic development as we proceed forward. I think it's important for us to recognize also that a lot of this this code world is not things that, in fact, none of them are as far as the International Building Code, are items that the city has just thought up on their own. No, these are internationally recognized codes to ensure that there's safety within the construction environment. And what we're trying to do here again is to make sure that these are applicable in Stephenville. And so thank you for your work, and yeah, it is a long list, but all of these very important as we move forward, so thank you. All right, the next item on the agenda, which is item 8. And Betty, let me turn this over to you for, I guess, a short explanation on what we're looking at here with this resolution.
Thank you, Mayor. This resolution would authorize the city to pursue approximately $2 million in funding for additions to the Bosque River Trail. This is a very similar project, same scope as what the initial trail was from the Graham Street Bridge to behind the museum area. We are very excited. Schrickle Rollins Associates did the design for us on the first part of the Bosque River Trail, and Miss Suzanne Sweat, who was the landscape architect that worked on the trail plan and developed it, has retired but has agreed to come back and work on the design to implement the next phase of the Bosque River Trail. This resolution would support that effort, and we would begin working on that. As I said, it is the total project would be approximately $2 million with $1.6 million in federal funding. Park Board is looking at discussing this as the next phase of their park master plan in the near future, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions for Betty? Okay, and
Mayor, I move approval of the resolution to certify local funding in support of the Bosque River Trail development.
Second.
Betty informs me that's 2012-10. I'm sorry, Cindy informs me.
Cindy,
It's not
okay.
10.
Resolution 2012-10.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Nix, seconded by Mr. McDaniel to approve resolution 2012-10. And that is to certify local funding in support of the Bosque River Trail development for the purpose of participating in the statewide transportation enhancement program to compete for Texas Department of Transportation 2012 program call for projects. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Resolution 2012-10 is approved. All right, next item on the agenda is the consent agenda.
Mayor,
Mr. McDaniel.
I move the consent agenda be approved in its entirety.
Second.
Been moved by Mr. McDaniel, seconded by Ms. Taylor to approve the consent agenda in its entirety. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, a consent agenda is approved as written and amended. All right, Ms. Chu, do you have any comments?
The only comments I have is next week on November 13th, we will have the nominations committee meeting to consider committee appointments to boards and commission, and then also the Public Health and Safety Committee will meet after that. We're doing this meeting instead of the next week because that is Thanksgiving week. Then, of course, we have the December 4th regular meeting, and then in December the 11th, we will have a Finance Committee meeting and also a Planning and Development Committee meeting for streets, projects, transportation. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Okay, any questions?
Game starts at
Again.
when?
Yep.
7, okay.
I have a question, Betty.
Yes.
Next Tuesday at 5:30, will we meet in this council chambers for the swearing in of a new council member duly elected tonight?
Yes, we will.
Okay, that's right. The voting is about to conclude, so this time later tonight, we'll be able to fill this seat here to my left. Any other questions for Betty?
Might just kind of add on to what Betty said about the nominations committee. Citizens, I think, still have time to come. You know, they have to fill out an application. to serve on those boards and commissions, and it would, if anybody's interested, to come by and fill out an application.
We don't have very many. Cindy's given me the sign that we do not have many that have signed up, and let me encourage that to please stop by, see Cindy, get an application, and participate. We need your support and your input, and it's vitally important to the success of the programs in the city. Okay, any other comments? If not, let me start with Dr. Cood. You got anything? Dr. Cross?
A couple of matters. In addition to reiterating the encouragement offered by others for people to come forward and apply for membership in boards and commissions, I would also like to encourage the council members to think in terms of possible charter revisions, possible components of our legislative program. As far as the nominations committee meeting next week, we will not only be reviewing board and commission applications, but we will also be but as far as the strategic planning component of our meeting is concerned, we will begin discussing a possible legislative program, possible revisions to our charter, whether or not we want to hold a charter revision election within the foreseeable future. So please think of these things.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Savine? Ms. Taylor? Mr. Taylor? Okay. All right. Well, let me again thank the committee chairs for their effort and the council on the reports that were issued tonight. A lot of hard work, and I mean, you heard the council members speak earlier of the marathon meetings, but that was, I think, reflective of a lot of hard work and a lot of discussion on these items to make sure that there's an understanding of the issues and that there's consensus as we move forward on what's in the best interest of the city. And so it's really encouraging for us to sit in on those and then come forward with the recommendations. I'd also like to just briefly mention the recurring theme in the committee reports about strategic planning, and that's something that the council has taken to task, looking toward the beginning of next year, to come together and really look at the comprehensive plan as a vision for where the city needs to be. It's a 2030 plan for the city, and then how do we take that into specific objective items for the city, and ultimately an annual budget that we will be discussing at the beginning of next year. And so we're not just today dealing with issues of this month. The council is constantly thinking ahead and what we need to be preparing ourselves in the future, and I just want to thank you all for your hard work in that effort. Okay, with that, at this time, I'm going to call the council into executive session, and in compliance with the provisions of the Texas Open Meeting Law, Chapter D, Government Code, Vernon's Texas Codes, annotated in accordance with Section 551.071, consultation with attorney, and Section 551.072, deliberation regarding real property, to look at action on 3 items this evening. And we will dismiss ourselves at this time and reconvene to adjourn. And that will